Good evening, everyone. It is 7 o'clock on Monday, December 20th. I would like to call this meeting to order. Before we begin, I would kindly ask all of you to silence your electronic devices to avoid any unnecessary interruptions. And please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Bartholomew?
Here.
Edwards?
Here.
Fowler?
Yes.
Hart?
Here.
Parker?
Here.
Poznanski?
Here.
President Lozon?
Here.
All present?
We have a quorum. Next up on your agenda, we have the consent agenda. Looking for an approval on the minutes from November 15th, 2021. Council bills and vendor report. Council bills are $221,905.02. And the vendor report reflects $43,424.81, along with tonight's meeting agenda. I do need to make an addition to the meeting agenda. So if we could hold approval on that. Is there any other discussion on the other three items?
No November 15th meeting. Now, just wanted to make, I gave you the write-up of my statement, and I asked if that would be included, and you just summarized, so if we could get that added in.
Well, we had some concerns about
I have
that.
a few questions about that.
Yeah, well,
Anybody
talk to you?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no one talked to me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Could you remove your hat, please? We are in a public meeting. I'd appreciate that if you could remove your hat while we conduct our business. Thank you. It was just distracting me. So I was very confused about your note because I know you said you wanted it included in the minutes, but it was unsigned. So I wasn't sure if it was from you because it started out referencing an I, but then it switched to a we. So I didn't know who the we was in what the paper read. And I spent a couple of hours reviewing the meeting tape itself, rewatching it, and then reading what you submitted. And it's not what you said. And obviously we want our minutes to reflect accurately, you know, what the intent was. That's not what I saw.
I know that your conversations or your presidential report has been added to the minutes several times, and it hasn't been what you said or what was reflected in the meetings. And
yeah, there was one time there was even sample graphs
that you
added.
never even saw. So I don't see that. If we're going to do it for you, I don't see why that's a complete issue if I summarize my statement or missed a few things. So.
Yeah, well, I was confused again, and not understanding the I and the we and who it was coming from, because again, there wasn't any names on it. So if you'd like,
transcript exactly what I said in the meeting, and I can resubmit that, and if we can get that added, that'd be perfect.
Well, you can certainly resubmit it. That's not a problem, but I'm still going to ask for an approval of the meeting minutes from November 15th, because I do believe the summary is typically what we approve.
I guess my question, how come you guys haven't talked before this? Let's clear this whole thing up. I guess that could have been done.
Probably because Justin Parker asked to not have any discussion about the minutes outside of a public meeting. So I'm just honoring his request, so we don't have any Open Meetings Act violations.
Can you clarify when I said that? I think you're the one that told me that directly in an email that we could pull up. That you said you would not inform me on anything outside of a public meeting. And that was your statement. I never said that.
I don't know. I don't want to try and guess at when I specifically said that right now.
Yeah. We can publish that too if you want, but don't put words in mine all that you said.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes
For November 15th.
for November 15th.
Is there any other, we have a motion, do we have support?
Support.
We have a motion and support. Is there any other discussion on the minutes? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
2.
We have three opposed? Okay. So the meeting minutes will approve. Do we have a motion and approval of the bills?
I'll make a motion to approve the bills as presented.
Do you have support?
Support.
I do have a question.
Yes?
I see, okay, where am I? Check register, the first page towards the top. Gabbridge and Company, I believe that's our new auditing firm.
It is?
Okay. Are we going to hear about our audit tonight going forward? Usually, at this point, let's see, usually it's November, October, we usually get something. I know this is a new company, maybe that's not part of what they do, but usually we're informed of it by at this point. Will we have some conversation on it tonight?
We haven't had our officer reports yet.
That's why I'm asking. Is it going to be?
Yeah,
Okay,
if you can just be patient, wait for the officer reports.
that's what I'm asking.
Okay. Any other questions on the bills?
A couple. A little farther down on the same page, just go about halfway. Chase Card Services, $526.91. What exactly encompasses this Chase card and who uses it?
That would be anybody in the entire office when items are needed. You would, I don't have those receipts in front of me. Again, I was not informed prior to the meeting that was going to be a question, so I
the
do not
whole
have receipts in
office?
front of me.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I do not have the receipts in front of me.
So the whole office is authorized to use this
Between
credit
us
card?
and the police station, when an item is needed, whether it's a class, education, an item from Amazon, cleaning supplies, officer supplies, they come to me and I order it through the
Okay,
Chase
so
credit card.
you have authority of the card, not just 20 people and they just charge it?
Well, I do, and the police department does.
How many people have authority to this card to actually make the transaction with it?
2.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. Thank you. Could we get information on what that is? Of what those $526?
Okay.
And then also, on the next page, same check register report, towards the bottom, there's a Sheena's Marketplace. Wondering, again, who, I didn't see it listed out on the other one, so I didn't see what department it was under or whatever. So I'm just wondering,
That's a question directed towards Al, wastewater.
okay, go ahead, Al.
Just kitchen supplies and stuff if we need it, we just whatever we need.
Okay. Do you have a credit card? Or
There's
you,
no
or you
account
pay
there.
it yourself and you submit
There's
it?
no account there, that's it.
Got it.
There's no card, there's just an account.
Okay. And so then they bill the village and we pay it? Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Those are my questions.
Okay, so we have a motion and we have support motion by, that was Edwards, right?
Edwards.
Support by Bartholomew.
Yes.
Roll call?
Edwards,
Yes.
Bartholomew,
Yes.
Kozniewski,
No.
Parker,
No.
Hart,
Yes.
Fowler,
No?
Edwards. I'm sorry, President Milzon.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-3.
Does anybody wish to clarify what their no vote is regarding? Did you have an objection to any of the expenditures
I
on
do
the
not
report?
believe it is appropriate to qualify our responses.
Okay.
Thank you.
I did request that the meeting agenda be pulled out. There was an item that was left off. There should be a closed session in your packets. You had a closed session packet, but unfortunately it got left off of the agenda. So I need an agenda item for closed session, which was for the purposes of real estate acquisition.
So that would be 11 and then adjournment would be
Yes.
12.
Mhm.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with that change, that addition.
I'll support. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
Can you tell
Okay.
the reason, the description again for me?
I'm sorry.
Can you say the
Closed session for
description?
the purpose of real estate acquisition.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have an approved agenda. Next up, you have special presentations. There are none this evening. We have no correspondence. Public comment. Anybody from the audience who wishes to make a public comment?
To make a public comment after 10F.
Which would be for the marijuana license? Yes, Mr. McKenna, correct? Yes, I will allow that. Thank you for asking. Mhm. Anybody else? Yes, public comment? Mhm.
Hi, Ruth Heidebreck, 354 Salem Drive South, and founder of MIT TV, and in this case, the chair of the Friends of the Village, Romeo Parks. And I am addressing my question to you, Mr. Parker. We've been here several times. We've had a nonprofit lawyer come here, give the details of what the Friends of the Park, of the Village Park is. We have talked about some of the committee members. Now the committee members are in full. And you have specifically said on September meeting, October 18th meeting, November 15th meeting, that you have tried to contact me.
That's correct.
Where have you tried to contact me?
An email. And
What email?
call. I think the one that I had was something like Hideaway,
Okay,
something or other.
okay, I have a copy, I have a screenshot of all of my emails, okay? Because this has happened between you and I before. I have my personal one, my Hideaway. I have my Gmail, both of my Gmails, and my MIT mail. And there is not one email from you. So I would appreciate you correcting me if you can find the email that you sent me. You also
I
stated...
could, and forward it to you again.
That'd be great,
And
thank
If
you.
you watch the meetings and you've noticed that I've asked for updates, then you've been notified through the meetings also.
I've watched every meeting, and I've watched all of your comments, and your comments are, I've contacted Ruth, but she's not gotten back to me.
That's
And
correct.
we need to know where the money is.
That's correct.
One, that's a ridiculous statement. It's slanderous, because every time you say that I have contacted Ruth Heidebrecht, and I can't get her to answer me. I've spoken to you many times. You've told me not to contact you, only to contact you on your trustee page, okay? And I have, at any time. I have never received anything from you. So I would really appreciate it, because I have asked you for it before. If you could give me a copy of that, at least I know that, that I got a message from you. But I can answer some of your questions. The last time we were here, and last time we were here with the nonprofit lawyer that's in charge of the Friends of the Park, we talked about the time frame of 18 months, right? You can go back to any meeting and see those details. It is in the administrative stages, and we have the committees formed, and the board will be formed once the nonprofit 501c3. You also made a statement that Ford gave the MIT TV, not the Village of Romeo, the MIT TV, $70,000, and that the MIT TV donated $30,000. You can go back to that same meeting and see the details. We've given $50,000, and we've donated another $10,000 to get the nonprofit status. And we did also announce that at that meeting. You can go back to that meeting. The board members are Richard D'Amato, Elizabeth Black Kellogg, Matthew Dowd, myself, Patrick Binker, I can never say that, Pat, Gary Roncelli, and Michelle Grislow. Our liaisons are Christine Melzon, and let me repeat, she's our liaison for the village. Claire Russell is our liaison for Parks and Rec. Greg Briner is our liaison for Parks and Rec. Kathy Burton is our liaison for the state, Lisa McLean's office, which is also involved in this project. And Kelly Stevens is our liaison for the Chamber of Commerce. So we have a lot of outstanding community leaders running this. So no one's running off with the money. And I certainly wouldn't be running off with my own money. So if you ever have any questions, one, if it's a resident that has a question, just like we have meetings here, usually, typically, if you're going to say a resident, we need to know, I need to know who that resident is so I can speak to them in person. If they have any doubt about this committee and what they're doing on an 18-month project, which is going to happen pretty quickly, I would be more than happy to answer any of their questions, or any of your questions, any of them. You can reach me on my cell. You all have my cell. We also have Google phones, so if you ever call the MIT TV, we never miss a phone call, because it goes to all three of us. Do you have any further questions?
Oh, no, I'll follow up with the email.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth.
Is there anybody else who wishes to make a public comment? Seeing no hands, no one standing up. Close public comment at this time, and I'll move on to our officer reports. I'll begin with my president's report for the month of December. As we approach the end of 2021, I want to personally thank our Romeo residents for their abundant support. I cannot thank enough the village employees for their hard work and dedication. Although this year has certainly had its share of difficulties, we have all worked together to find solutions that have made us financially stronger and a much safer community. I also thank the trustees present here tonight for their service to this village and look forward to the good work we will do together in 2022. I attended another SEMCOG Executive Committee meeting on Friday, November 3rd at the Detroit Adventure Center. The meeting featured an informational session from MDOT Director Paul Ajeba, an overview of Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act from Tiffany Gunter, who is the Deputy Director of SEMCOG, and important legislative updates from SEMCOG Executive Director Amy O'Leary. If you have not been to the DAC, I urge you to check it out. It is a great interactive learning space for families focused on the natural resources Michigan has to offer. It's located right on Atwater Street in Detroit, right off of Jefferson. So take your families there. It's a very small fee to enter. On November 18th, I attended a 2-day Michigan Association of Mayors and Presidents Conference. Key takeaways were best practices in the manager-president roles and responsibilities, parliamentary procedures, as well as policy making and proclamations. The Romeo Washington Bruce Chamber of Commerce Emmas, which is their Extraordinary Member Merit Award, were held on December 2nd. Congratulations to all the award winners, especially to Greg Breinart, who received the Lifetime Achievement Award, and to Ruth Hedebreck, who was honored with the Community Leadership Award. It was my honor to nominate and present the Beautification Brick Award to Joe Warden and Kim Davis from Tri-County Bank. What a turnout we had for the Christmas parade and the village tree lighting. The park was absolutely packed as we all gathered to welcome Santa and Mrs. Claus, who helped us welcome the holiday season. They graciously accepted a key to the village from me and joyfully greeted all the good boys and girls who came to visit them that evening. Clara Russell and her staff at the Parks and Rec, along with the Romeo Lions, orchestrated this event, and they truly outdid themselves again this year. Before the parade, I was joined by Clerk Trapp and her daughters, Trustee Bartholomew, Bruce Township Supervisor Mike Philbrook, Bruce Township Clerk Kraft and her husband, and Bruce Township Trustee Lisa Craffey to pass out over 400 glow sticks and fiber optic lights to the gathering crowd. We had so much fun together. I send a huge thank you to Chris and Diane Smiles, who organized the Samaritan House sharing tree again this year. I was able to lend a hand, along with their other volunteers, wrapping, sorting, and delivering Christmas gifts to over 163 local families and 24 group homes in need. Diane and Chris spend countless hours throughout the year on this program, culminating in a week-long effort to prepare and distribute the donated gifts to those in need. The room was full of gifts. Amazing, just amazing generosity from our community. Washington Township hosted a third Parks and Rec meeting workshop on December 8th. Thank you to the trustees who attended with me in a show of support for Romeo. I'm sad to report that Washington Township Board voted 5-2 at their December 15th meeting in favor of reforming the commission with a 7-member board. 5 of those members would be from Washington Township, 2 from Bruce, and it will exclude Romeo from having a representative. I am awaiting for more information and next steps, if there are any, from Supervisors Privity and Philbrook, but I am anticipating the cancellation of the scheduled January 12th workshop meeting. On December 14th, Romeo versus Oxford varsity basketball game was held. Thank you to Coach Marvin Cushenberry and Romeo Community Schools Athletic Director Cody Smith for inviting me to welcome the Oxford Wildcats to Romeo as they returned to the basketball court. it was my privilege to make and present them a poster print that the coaches had signed by the players. The print was a photograph of the Romeo Rock with the Oxford Strong message painted on it. And I shout out to Brielle Chahaki and Catherine Rice for their amazing painting skills. Those two mama bears took time to do that rock upright to show Romeo's love for Oxford. Please continue to send warm hugs and pray for our neighbors as they continue to make a path forward in the aftermath of such tragedy. On a brighter note, love is coming officially to Romeo on Friday, January 14th, 2022. Everyone is invited to attend the first day of issue dedication ceremony from the United States Postal Service at 11 a.m. at the Romeo Masonic Lodge on Main Street. Come and meet your new postmaster, Miss Stacy Isman, along with other dignitaries, including the artist who designed and illustrated the stamp. Paul Gross from WDIV Channel 4 will be the master of ceremonies. They are asking for your RSVP at United States Postal Office, USPS.com/love stamps. There are a few copies of the invitation that I left over on there. They'll be posted on the village website, and I put one at each one of the trustees' place settings, just so hopefully you can all join us then. I am pleased to inform you that Romeo has a new police officer. Our newest employee, who will be replacing retired officer Linda Blevins, is Officer Catante. He comes to us from the city of Detroit, where he was assigned to the SWAT team and also served as a resource officer. Catante will be officially sworn in by the Honorable Jennifer Andary at our January 18th meeting and will be a great asset to all of our residents. As always, I continue to hold regular office hours to meet with our property owners, business owners, to address their concerns. If you have a concern, compliment, or complaint that you need assistance with, please call my office at 586-752-3565. I'm at extension 3. Thank you. Okay. Clerk Trapp.
On Thursday, December 9th, I facilitated the Tilson Residents Meeting at the Parks and Rec Senior Center. I would like to thank Police Chief Dan Sopelnicki, Village Attorney Mark Clark, Chief Battalion Officer Jim Bowell from Bruce Township Fire Department, President Malzahn, and Bruce Township Supervisor Mike Philbrook for taking the time to answer resident questions. I too also the night before did attend the Parks and Rec meeting that was held at Washington Township. We are in the process of wrapping up our first audit with the firm Gaybridge and Company out of Grand Rapids. I got an email late today stating we only have one document to submit, and then they will be on their way to reporting their findings to us in January. This was a different approach. Everything was electronic for they are in Grand Rapids. This season, Santa's helpers answered over 400 letters to Santa in our mailbox that was on Main Street all season. Thank you to all of Santa's helpers. And with that, I'd like to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and a wonderful 2022.
All right. Thank you. Treasurer Maddox.
I submitted the audit documentation that was requested to Clerk Trapp and the auditors back in October. November 16th, I sent to Macomb County the forfeiture properties, and we should be notified next spring if there are any properties that are going to be up for forfeiture. On November 17th, I sent the reports to Benzinski and Company, and that is for the annual information statement, which is for the completion for the continuing disclosure undertaking. And then once the audited financial statement is completed, at that time then I can forward that on to Benzinski and Company. November 30th, I mailed the completed and signed computerized tax roll recertification, and that was requested by the Michigan Department of Treasury. And that concludes my report. Are there any questions? Okay, and at this time, I just want to wish the residents, business owners, and board members a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and let's pray for a better New Year for us all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, trustee report. Mr. Parker, would you like to start?
I'm good.
Okay, Mr. Fowler?
Yeah, thank you for the Christmas card. Received that in the mail. That was good. I also received in the mail an invoice for a bill of $360 for a sidewalk repair that was supposedly done in front of my house. It was done on the property next door, and I was billed for it. So I won't be paying that bill. It was, yeah, it was done between the two no parking signs that the village put up on their consent agreement on Mr. Rogers' property. So the invoice was made out to me, and my wife brought it up to your counter, and hopefully you guys straighten that out.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that, but.
Bartholomew?
When I wrote I don't think there's like a address there, but what I did is I put Mr. Rogers' property.
But you sent it to me.
Well, no, I didn't send anything to anybody.
Well,
Yeah.
somebody put my name on it.
Caroline Miller assisted us with the billing
They put
from
m-
Jeff Rapp, so we'll make sure that we look into that
Yeah,
first thing in the
they put
morning.
mine in.
And
I won't be paying.
get the
Shouldn't
bill
have.
into the correct hands, absolutely. Thank you
No,
for
your
alerting us to
sidewalks are
that.
fine.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
but you still billed me.
We'll square it away.
Mm-hmm.
You get- straighten it out.
I'm not
Yep.
involved in the billing.
We got it.
Anything else to
That's it.
report? Okay. Mr. Hart?
I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Edwards? Ms. Lozansky?
A few things. It was a pleasure of mine to attend the Thanksgiving dinner for the community at the Mason Hall. After that, a few days later, the Bruce Township Council meeting, and personally thank the fire chief for doing the retirement party for our Officer Blevins. They said they really appreciated the personal thank you. And then attending the Santa Parade and able to help out with the Parks and Rec. Was in the back scenes, parking the parade, so didn't get out to hand out all the flashing toys. And then it was a privilege to attend the Parks and Rec meeting and represent this Village of Romeo and have our concerns heard. It's sad to hear the outcome from Washington Township, but that doesn't mean we don't stop fighting and we don't stop bringing our opinions and our wants to the table. That is mine.
Just a couple of residents made some comments that I told her that I would share with the board, and one of them was, this was a couple months ago. My parents' neighbor, Rochelle, and their neighbors, Rochelle and Bob, came home to hear water rushing in the basement, okay, and, but there was no water. So she said that so she didn't know what to do. They could hear the water, but it was outside the wall, the basement wall, and it was where the water comes in, so it wasn't our problem. But she called and talked to I believe it was Cindy, and she said right away she called Tim. She says Tim was over here within a few minutes, and he was able to shut the water off, because at first no water was coming in, and then it started coming in. And then he had suggested a friend of his to be able to dig the trench. I mean, all this was done almost like within a 24-hour period, but she just wanted to express how nice it was to work with the village. You know, I mean, we didn't do anything we were supposed to for her, but we were able to guide her to get the job done, and she just really appreciated that. I also spoke with Belinda Weeder, and I've known the Weeders for most of my life, Tom and Belinda and the kids. My parents' backyard backs up to theirs, and I saw her the day after the last month's meeting at the post office. We talked for like 40 minutes, and originally she said she came into the offices and handed you the letters and asked you that you put them in the packets, and you said they're not signed. And then the last thing she ever wanted to do was get up before the people and be the first one. And you told her then at the office, you said, look, you come to the meeting, you speak, I'll put it in their packets. And she was like, oh my gosh, she didn't want to do that. But you encouraged her, and at the meeting, the kind words you spoke before asking her to come up, I think just made her feel very comfortable. And she appreciated that. I think she said she was going to call you, and I'll let you know that.
She did.
Okay, and then the other thing, like at the Emmas, anything that you attend and you're asked to get up and speak, like at the Emmas just recently, it's just you do such a great job. You have great leadership skills, and
I'm sorry, Nathan, do you have anything to report?
Yeah, I
as
am
trustee?
I am reporting
That
that.
is not, what are you talking about? This is not a trustee.
Excuse me, I
He
have
needs to
the
finish his report.
I have the floor
You can
right now.
finish
This
his
is not a
report.
trustee report, this is kissing
No, I'm
butt.
sorry. I'm just about done. Thank you.
Good.
So, Oh, I'm glad you appreciate that. So with that, and the other thing that I would like to express is that I appreciate how, the way you do your best to handle the crap that gets thrown at you at these meetings and throughout the week. So with that, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your kind words very much.
Of course.
And, you know, our DPW, our wastewater, you know, who was out without power this week, and our guys at the DPW are the best. So responsive, you know, in the middle of the windstorm when trees are blowing down in the street, you know, they're there, right, you know, very responsive, always willing to lend a hand. And so, Tim, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank the guys, and pass those compliments along to them, please. All right, Zach, was there anything from the Planning Commission you need to report?
Yeah, the Planning Commission approved the special land use for all of the applicants that have applied, east of the bypass and north of 32 Mile Road, in the industrial area. So they were then submitted to the next phase of approval. That was it.
Okay, thank you. Next up, committee reports, the Bruce Sewer Capacity Subcommittee. Just briefly recap that I know we haven't met since the last time. I did forward a couple of emails. We did get some answers from Supervisor Philbrook to the questions that we posed. We did get an update data flow chart from Mike McDonald at HRC. Justin, if you weren't able to open those, there were printed copies that are in your mailbox if you still haven't retrieved them. That they were there per your request. And so we're going to be looked to schedule a meeting hopefully the first week of January or the second week. So I'll get with you, send an email,
Okay.
and we'll get a date on the books to keep moving that forward. Before we move into unfinished business, I just wanted to take a minute and point out the packet looks a little bit different. I spent a significant amount of time doing this. This was a best practice that I did bring back from that conference that I attended 2 days. It's also very similar to the practice that the library board has been using under Elizabeth Miller's direction. And I hope that you find it useful. I thought I would try it. If you don't like the information that's there, that's fine. We certainly don't have to stop doing that. Again, it did take me a significant amount of time to craft them each, but the intent was so that you were clear on the items that were included in your packet, the background information. A lot of times this practice comes from the village or city managers because they don't necessarily attend the meetings, but it's their way to convey to the trustees or commissioners actually the important information that you're all going to vote on tonight. So that's why that's in the packet this way, and I hope that you find it useful. And if not, please feel free to give me some other suggestions on what we can do to make it better. Okay. So, agenda 9A, under unfinished business, the wastewater treatment sale of the Crown Vic car. Just a bit of background. The car was posted for sale on the MML classified website in November per your directives. No bids or inquiries have been made to date. So we're recommending that we reduce the price. So the motion recommendation is to reduce the minimum bid price to $950 and repost it online for sale.
What was it up for?
Oh, go ahead, Megan, I'm sorry.
What did we originally put it up?
1,500, I believe, was the starting bid.
Can we just list it as a best offer by X date, accept it, and be done? I mean, $950, I don't know if we need to see this again. If it doesn't get a $950 offer next month.
I like this. I mean, you dropped it below 1,000 and go from there. Eventually, it's probably worth about 500 in scrap right now.
I don't
But
know.
anyways.
I didn't look up the Kelly Blue Book value on it. I had to be perfectly honest, but
Oh.
yeah.
But I think you dropped it below $1,000. We'd give this a shot.
Right. So is anybody willing to make a motion to
Yeah, I'll make a motion. that we
Reduce the
drop
minimum bid price?
That we reduce
Okay.
the price for the Crown Vic.
okay. Do you want it to be $950 or do you want it to be best offer?
I'd say we could do $950 or best offer.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
By a certain date?
That I don't know.
Catherine, do you know, are the postings good for a certain amount of time, or
30
are they just up
days.
there,
I believe it was 30 days.
and then you have to renew it? That's what I thought. So we could post it for
Does it make sense to
30.
do $950 or best offer?
Just best
That's what
offer
Nathan
by-
just
Yeah,
said.
it'd be best offer or $950, a minimum.
That's a good starting point. I mean, gives them an idea.
Right.
Okay. So do you want it to read, I don't want to restrict your motion for you, but I just want to be clear what we're voting on. A minimum of 950 or best offer?
Correct.
Just go to best offer like Bob suggested. I think
I
that's,
wouldn't do
I think it's good to give them a starting point.
Okay.
I don't think
Only
you
say
need the word
minimum.
minimum. I think just 950 or best offer.
Correct.
950 or best
Yes,
offer.
yes.
So
do
they
it
come in at
minimum.
949.
Okay. So we have a motion on the table by Bartholomew
Support.
to reduce the minimum bid price of the sale of the Crown Vic to $950 or best offer. We have support by Poznanski.
Yep.
Roll call, please.
Bartholomew?
Yes.
Poznanski?
Yes.
Edwards?
Yes.
Fowler?
yes,
Hart?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
President Milzan?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Great. We'll move into new business. Item 10A, our 2022 appointments. On the cover sheet, the items attached were the 2022 annual appointee names and positions. I have included the DDA board members with their terms. There's a letter of interest from Mrs. Kellogg, and the cemetery board members with their terms. I'd be looking for 3 motions. The first motion would be to approve the president's nominations for the 2022 annual appointments. And those appointments include, let me find that sheet, Supervisor of Public Works, Tim Metz, Supervisor of the Wastewater Treatment Plant, Al Lapierre, Wastewater Program Manager, Al Lapierre, our Police Chief, Dan Sokolnicki, Village Attorney, Mark Clark, Village Prosecutor, Mark Clark, Plumbing and Heating Inspector, Ken Borzi, Electrical Inspector, Tim Dillon, Building Inspector, Michael Bomarito, Noxious Weed Inspector, it's a challenging one, Dan Sokolnicki, and Street Administrator, myself, President Christine Malzahn. There are no changes from 2022 to that list.
All right, so moved.
Christine, could you add, or can we add at this point, because it should be an annual appointment, also the President Pro Tem?
I was just gonna say that,
Yeah.
should be on there.
We
'Cause ran
typically,
into that
right,
problem last time.
It's supposed to happen as close to November 20th as possible.
okay. I know the President Pro Tem is a board appointment instead of a president appointment, so. if
Oh,
you-
this is, it's annual appointments, I was just reading what it
Yes.
said there, so.
Right, so is it okay if I just add that to January's, and then we could have some discussion, and Matt has 30 days to figure out if he wants to continue to do it, or find somebody else to take over?
That's fine with me.
Okay,
I don't mind doing
if
it.
that's okay, we'll add it to January? Okay,
So I move to make those appointments for number
Second.
1.
I'll second Bob's motion.
so we had a motion by Hart, we had support by Fowler. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The second motion is to approve President Malzahn's nomination of Elizabeth Kellogg Black to fill the vacancy on the Downtown Development Authority with the term ending December 2023. We have a vacancy because I accepted the resignation of Carol Humphreys. She served on this board for over 12 years and is retiring, so
Is Elizabeth here?
Elizabeth is here. Yep, you have a letter of interest that she drafted, and it was included in your packets.
Is this the same Elizabeth that's on the Parks Committee also? Is that what, okay, there was another Elizabeth Kellogg name that
Okay.
Ruth read off. Just didn't know.
I know she might.
So you need
I'll make a motion to approve your recommendation for Elizabeth Kellogg Black to the Downtown Development Authority.
Okay, we have a motion by Hart,
Support.
support by Bartholomew.
Did we have any other interest? And not to discredit Elizabeth Kellogg, I just didn't know if we had any. I talked to some of the DDA members. Most of them agreed that they felt that another property or business owner would probably fit better, considering we already have 1 or 2 residents on the board currently.
There's an established board makeup
Right.
that you need to qualify, which we have for that. So as long as you're satisfying that makeup.
Yes. The only other resident that we have is Megan Poznanski, so there would
Oh,
be
I'm sorry.
2.
It said, got Kelly listed as a resident.
Right, she also represents that business on the corner of her rental property, so it probably should say resident/business,
Okay.
but, yeah.
Property owner.
Property
commercial
owner,
property
yeah.
owner.
Mhm. Okay, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? All right, welcome Elizabeth, thank you for your service. We will need to get you sworn in, so Catherine can arrange that with you, and hope to see you at our January meeting. The third recommendation that I have is to approve President Malzahn's nomination and reappointment of Kelly Stevens and Sandra Brooks to the Cemetery Board. Both of those are reappointments. Any discussion on those?
Sandra, you want to be on the board again? Okay.
Yes. I asked her after last month's meeting. I gave her an out, too. Mhm. Yep.
Then I make a motion to go with the appointment of Kelly Stevens and Miss Sandra Brooks to the
Second.
Cemetery Board.
Okay, we have a motion by Poznanski. We have a second by Parker. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Now, can I ask a quick question?
Motion back, yes.
That we don't have any of the other board appointments, does that mean nobody's up? Is that what I should
There
assume?
are some vacancies on the Planning Commission. I have not had an opportunity to meet with those members whose terms are expiring, so I chose not to bring them back at this time.
Is
So,
that the only one? Are there other ones?
I believe we have an alternate available on the Zoning Board of Appeals, and one or two on the HDC. I believe Guy Jones Law, and I think he resigned his position, and I believe May's term is up, but I haven't had an opportunity to speak with her either, so.
Okay, I just didn't want to assume that we didn't if we, thank you.
Okay, next up, item 10B, the wastewater treatment plant generator engineering proposal. Al, your tickets just keep getting bigger. Every time you come here, you ask for more and more money. Just a bit of background, the generator currently in operations at the wastewater treatment plant has been identified as a priority replacement project. The current generator in place is aging and needs to be updated so that in the event of a power failure, full plant operations will function as required. The anticipated cost that he's asking for tonight is $42,100. That is for the engineering work that needs to be done by HRC, Helper Roth and Clark, for the generator and switch gear replacement. The total cost of this project are expected to be paid for using our ARPA funds.
Good evening.
Take it away.
Just, we currently have a 350 kilowatt generator to run the plant. It was put in the late 70s. It's an old 12 cylinder Detroit diesel. They don't make the parts for it anymore, so we're just hoping nothing breaks down. So we wanted to use the money from the federal government. We'd originally looked at, putting some money aside over a couple of years to pay for this, and we do have some money on the side. We could use that money for the time being to pay for this. And I don't know if we could pay ourselves back with the federal money or not, but this would include doing a load study so that we could make sure we have the right size generator for future use in case if we ever do expand. They would do the bidding, they would oversee the implementation of the installation and the whole works. Whether or not, right now the current one is inside a building. We're trying to decide whether trying to tear the side of the building out and take this thing out is the right way to go, or just dropping one outside. So they're gonna have to figure all that out. So that's what I'm asking for tonight, is to start looking into this to get the ball rolling, so that when those funds do come available to us, hopefully all we have to do is just order. So I want to get the ball rolling.
Al, originally, I know when we looked at this back during the budget meetings, I think it was proposed like a $300,000 expense. Skimming through this or reading through this referenced something like 600 plus or minus thousand just for electrical.
That was when we did the asset management program. They looked at replacing the one indoors, and I think that was about $600,000. So we're going to look at making sure that that is not feasible, but we're really thinking that's just putting one outside, dropping it, and abandoning that one in place. It might be the best way to go.
And the 42, to have this done, could this be bypassed by just calling in
Yeah, we
the
could,
companies that do this type of install, like Rawhorn?
we could certainly do that, but I don't know if they're gonna be able to do a load study and tell us what we're gonna need for the future. I don't think that Rawhorn or anybody else would do that. So I really want it done right, get the right piece of equipment for what we need in the future, and have the engineers do it. They can figure out where it needs to be put, and what size cement pad we need to put down, the whole 9 yards. I just think it would be a lot better to do it professionally.
Yeah, I would not.
I understand, it's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's 42,000 for that.
Anytime you use
I would almost
engineers.
recommend calling in Rawhorn or another professional company. This is what they do, that would know exactly what needs to be done and pretty much bypass that 42,000 expense.
Like I said, I don't think they would be able to do the load study for us and tell us what we need for future use.
Dan Royal is the principal engineer that helped design and do that expansion of that wastewater treatment plant. He's still employed by HRC, so he's our go-to guy. I mean, he created the thing, so he certainly would have the best understanding of what we would need and how to, efficiently
I've certainly
take care of
thought
the
about that. It
process.
was originally, the ballpark price of 300,000 is me just calling, about 5 years ago, calling several companies and having them give me quotes. That was 5 or 6 years ago. So we're using it as a ballpark figure. I don't know how much it's gonna cost. And I just wanna do it right. I think for future use, especially if we're going to possibly expand it or something like that, especially if Bruce wants more flow, I wanna do it right.
I'll make the motion that we move forward with the engineering services proposed here by HRC.
I'll support, and what I'm thinking is, when you have engineered plan of what you need to have, I think as far as getting the bid and everything out, and knowing you're talking apples to apples with the different companies, you're gonna get what's engineered. So there's some confidence to have in that.
I guess my question of these two feedbacks here is, I see where Justin's going as far as eliminating the middleman,
I understand completely.
because that 42,000 is 42,000,
Yes, it is.
and a company would know exactly what they need to install in order to make this machine work in that place.
Well, they would
I see
know
what Bob's saying too, as far as
They
them
would know
doing the
what-
previous engineering on the thing, and they know what's going into that
They
place.
would know what to do to put another 350 kilowatt generator in.
Yeah,
what the
I
plant
understood
needs.
when you said it was put in the late 70s, and you can't get parts for it anymore, so it's a new thing that we're gonna put in,
Yeah.
correct? So, I guess I'm gonna be in the part where he's close to being saying, wouldn't the company that we're going to do the business with know exactly what to install?
I
As
don't think
opposed to
so.
us using Hubble, Roth, and Clark?
I don't think they're gonna know what we need.
So you're
So,
saying
no.
that spec sheet we're gonna need in order for them to supply us with
We
everything that
need
we
to,
need?
have a load study done and then look
Okay.
at future needs.
All right.
That's
So, I
my
mean-
biggest worry. The prices, yeah, I get it. I understand.
It's not like we're going to go to Home Depot and buy the 2300 model, right?
Well, I doubt
This is-
Home Depot will do anything here, but. I
Right,
guess-
I'm just suggesting, right,
couldn't
this
you
is a
write the
custom
specification up
installed-
for it?
yes.
I guess that's where I'm at.
I could not.
You
I don't.
couldn't?
I just know.
Because I know
that
you're there
350
every day and
Kilowatt
know-
generator, as far as the load, what we need, I'm not qualified to do load study.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, a master electrician would be more than qualified to come out and do a load study, look at future calculations. It's very similar to building a service.
But
I would
they
feel
can
very
install-
confident.
How to install the pads, all the,
100%.
what you need?
100%. A company like Rawhorn.
I can only give you my recommendations.
Yeah, I would feel.
But they couldn't
confident.
do the construction engineering and things like that would be accomplished right here.
Tim, do you have some
I'm pretty
input?
confident.
I do.
Not the construction part of it,
I had
Rawhorn.
a pretty good rapport with Rawhorn Electric, know the owner quite well, and quite a few people that work there. I mean, if you want to postpone this till next month, I can check with them to see if they can do what them needs done. Not to stick my nose in your business out, but 42,000 is a lot.
It's a lot of money. to have an engineering company do it. That's my recommendation, that won't change.
At least two.
Our church has had some work that needed to be done, some brickwork and some major stuff, and the contractors preferred that we had it engineered so that they knew, so they could bid the job on what it needed to be. Sometimes you can get, you can overpay if you don't have an engineering study done. So that what that does is it ensures that we're going to get exactly what they need out there, and I think that's a good way to go.
I think we're overpaying and right now. I think 30 days won't hurt us. I mean, I think that's, at least try to save the residents money. At least try, as opposed to just putting it out there.
I don't like I don't like doing the I know a guy thing.
Well,
I'll say that much. It's not my thing. A friend of Tim's or something like that.
Rawhorn's a good company.
Now, they're a large company, right around the
Yes.
corner on 33
They're a good
Mile.
I know,
company.
Tim.
They work all over Michigan.
Would you
Yeah,
like
we
to
use
remember the
Ray.
department, please?
Yeah. I mean, just,
Yeah, this is,
All right, so we have a motion on the table, and we have support. Is there any
have a
other
question.
discussion?
Can't get in here. Just so to clarify, as we're all talking about these ARPA funds, because we misunderstood our funds last time, it's not as much as we thought we had. So this project will essentially take all of our funds, correct? Because we really only have 300 and some instead of
It's
600?
$377,435, and we've received $188,000 and some change on that to date. I brought this.
This project may very well
Yes.
take all that. I really don't know.
plus 42,000.
If you were getting prices 5 years ago at 300, I can pretty confidently say that it's going to be quite a bit more than that now.
Might be.
In comparison to 5 years. And then to add 42 on top of that.
But we knew that the infrastructure was failing. We knew that we needed to plan for it long-term. We talked about it in our goals and objectives. At that time, we decided that it had to be a priority, and we were going to fund this for 3 years through financing per Tim's recommendation. So if we have the money that has been awarded to us from the ARPA funds, then it's not coming out of taxpayer dollars. And while we certainly have a long list of fund projects that we could utilize this money for, making sure that our wastewater treatment plant is operational at all times is kind of important
it's
to me.
huge.
Yeah.
So
So-
my clarification was that if we're going to use all this money for this, then I no longer need to work on the survey to ask for the people's input. Is that correct?
Well, I don't know that that's necessarily the truth, because we could still get the survey and see what people are interested in having done. We can still look at a financing option. We don't have to use the funds if we decide that something off that list is more pressing, or we could split it. I think we have a lot of options as we move forward. So gathering that data, I think, will be very helpful.
While you look at that, we have enough money to pay for this, pay for the engineering costs.
To at least know what we're looking at,
Yeah,
right?
so we're looking at, if the price, it may be significantly more. We need to look at what we're looking at. We need our engineers to tell us what we need and what going forward.
I trust your judgment, Al.
If it is like with Rayhorn, then they're going to tell us what we need. Are we going to then take it out to bid on what they're making recommendations? And then who's actually, going to be doing the engineering? Like you said, what the load, the pads, how it's going to be installed, what is the best way to do it, being inside or outside, there's a lot of questions. I still think we'd need engineering even if we went with Rayhorn.
Absolutely.
But how do you sit there and not, lock into a company? You're going to have, this is a very, $300,000 to $600,000. So to spend the 40 percentage-wise is not unreasonable. If we're talking about that kind of size of a project.
We paid $25,000 for our church engineering, but it can be worth it in the long run. I mean, it's too important of a matter. There are so many people and communities that rely on this, and it's old, and like I said, I trust his judgment.
All right, so we have a motion and we have support. If there's no further discussion, could you call the roll, please?
Bartholomew?
Yes.
Hart?
Yes.
Fowler?
Yeah.
President Malzahn?
Yes?
Edwards?
Yes.
Parker?
No.
Poznanski?
Yes.
6-1.
Okay, we'll add that to HRC's to-do list. All right, next up, item 10C, the Romeo Middle School Resource Officer. Little background. As discussed during our goals and objectives meetings, there is a need for a resource officer to assist staff and students with issues that may arise on the middle school campus. Currently, Officer Lavish is dedicated Macomb County Sheriff's. He is on site at the high school campus. He performs similar duties and is funded by Washington Township. Dr. Todd Robinson approached the village last year in an effort to partner with us with the goal of providing a similar officer dedicated to the Romeo Middle School campus, which is situated in Bruce Township, just outside the village boundaries. If all parties agreed, the 425 would need to be put in place between Romeo and Bruce Township, providing jurisdiction to Romeo at that site. The anticipated cost of the new officer is $65,000, with 50% of the funding provided by Romeo Community Schools and 25% each to both Bruce and Romeo. Before I typed this, in advance of the Bruce Township meeting. Bruce Township did put this on their agenda for last Wednesday, and the board voted no to not fund this. It was a 3-2 vote. They agreed to look at this in March. All indications from Supervisor Philbrook is that they're certainly not opposed to a 425 giving jurisdiction to a Romeo police officer up on that campus. It was more of tax dollars. They were of the belief that it should be funded through the schools. But in all reality, the school is funded through taxation. So whether it's collected and paid for out of that school tax, or if it's funded and paid for out of our tax, it's still a tax. And it's paying for a much needed, dedicated officer to that facility. Obviously, in the aftermath of the tragedy in Oxford, this is on everybody's mind. The first 2 days back, Officer Bauer was on site at that campus. I received many phone calls from the parents who thanked us for having him there. It was a big comfort to the students and to the staff. Dr. Robinson confirmed that with me this afternoon when I had a conversation with him just to make sure that that was still something that he wanted me to move forward in light of Bruce's voting in opposition of that. And certainly it is. This would require the position to be established in our POAM, collective bargaining agreement. During those negotiations, they did agree to put a placeholder, an opener in there, should Romeo want to add this officer. So I believe the union won't be, it won't stand in the way of moving this forward. So then it would become a collaboration between the union, the school, our police force, to find the right candidate. There's some groundwork that needs to be laid to find the person with the right personality and the right skill set to deal with Romeo middle schoolers, right? To say that politely. So it really would take some effort. But you know, I've been a proponent of this. I've supported it the last couple of years under our goals and objectives. And I'm asking this board tonight to authorize me to begin negotiations between Romeo, the POAM, the Romeo School District, and Bruce Township to establish a job description, a union position, and cost share options for the purposes of hiring a Romeo officer with jurisdiction and authority dedicated to the Romeo Middle School facility.
So without any dollars, you just want to start the negotiation? Because I'd say if we were to pay our share and maybe put that back into Bruce, because I do think the residents, certainly ones with kids, but even myself would be in support of this $16,250. We probably have some additional legacy costs, which adding an officer, but then we have an officer that has some flexibility. So, but I think that's something that the residents would want.
Yes, Dr. Robinson, during our conversation this afternoon, did say, like, whether Romeo, bails because Bruce bailed, or whether we want to move forward, right? he strongly believes that this is something that's needed. Again, it doesn't take hours away from Officer Lavish, who's down at the high school. You know, when there is an incident at the middle school, Officer Lavish goes there and takes care of that, as well as if there's one at any of the elementary schools, right? He's sort of dedicated to the whole of the school district, but it wouldn't pull him away from his duties at the high school if we had a second officer up there. And so you're right, I don't know all of the ins and outs, but I'm willing to do the legwork and talk to all of these groups to see what kind of agreement we can come together with and then bring it back to this board for financial support.
I'll make a motion that we have President Malzahn begin negotiations between Romeo, Palm, and the school district.
Okay.
And Chief, can I just ask a question? Is there anything that the 425 would help if we did nothing? Does it give us anything else that if there is an incident that's happening, having some jurisdiction? Or is that tying us into, you know, our officers having to help? Because as soon as the cemetery ends, that's where our jurisdiction ends. Any thought on that? Because now it's the state police or the sheriff.
The middle school is outside the boundary of the village of Romeo, and technically we have no authority in that area to perform any kind of police duties. If you come up with the agreement that would authorize us just at that area.
And would it authorize us as an additional one, or is it tying us into being the responsible force? I'm thinking if Bruce doesn't want to go into there, and if some of the funding, but is there anything that is of value to have the 425 so that we can go in there in addition to the other officers?
That's the whole issue. If we don't have some kind of agreement with Bruce Township, then all we can do is act as private citizens in the middle school. You know, granted, something happens in the middle school, my people.
It's all hands on deck.
It's not going to be an issue.
I understand.
We'll deal with that afterwards if someone gets their feelings hurt, sorry. But what happened last week when we started back up, I was contacted by the Officer Lavish, or Deputy Lavish, and he asked if we went up there. So as a mutual aid capacity, we had authority to do whatever was necessary. On Tuesday, I sent Officer Bauer up there again, but we weren't acting in any kind of mutual aid type thing. That's where the issue becomes a problem. We don't really have any authority to do anything there. He will do something if something's necessary, but, you know, obvious. And where the middle school is located is, we're gonna be the first ones there.
Right.
So we're gonna be responsible for that. If we do the 425 agreement, that gives us all
That'll
responsibility
tie it.
of that school.
All right, thank you.
Now, have we talked with our insurance? How would this affect that at all? Are we covered? Should something happen, and lawsuits always come out, are we covered? Would we be covered under the police? Would we be covered under village? How would that all be covered?
He would be, or she would be, a village employee, so they would be covered just like any of our other officers on duty and in the performance of their duties. Should something unfortunate happen, of course, there would be coverages in place.
Okay. But have we confirmed that?
I mean,
Have we asked?
it is outside our jurisdiction,
If
right?
you have the agreement with Bruce Township, and that gives us the authority to work there, then we are covered.
But until
There's
then,
no more actual liability, I don't believe, because we're police officers, our liability couldn't be any higher. If we go outside of our jurisdiction and act in a police authority without any kind of authority to do so, or mutual aid, that's where you're having problems. But you're still covered under the bill.
okay. The other thing I wanted to look into, as we're looking into paying for this, as I'm a Washington resident, I'm on the south side of 32, we're already paying for the high school liaison in Washington. So I'm paying my school tax, and now on top of that, I'm paying for this Washington Township liaison. And then I'll be paying for, should this happen, a Romeo one. So that's 3 times that I am paying. And then Bruce Romeo will essentially be paying twice for the same officer, because yours will be on the Bruce side, plus your school tax. So my concern is, I don't know that the village should be stepping in this at all, other than providing the actual officers, that this should be a township thing, that this should be it really should be a school thing.
Our tax dollars in Washington
I'm
does
sorry,
not
I'm sorry,
pay for the police.
I'm still speaking.
Oh, I'm sorry, Amy.
Thank you.
I couldn't hear you.
So, I would think, with those concerns, and we've been concerned about double taxing our residents with Parks and Rec, that we wouldn't do this again, that we would take that into concern and say we will participate, but especially until there's a 425, and even then, I still am very leery about paying more. Our residents will be paying the most money for all of this.
What I was saying is the money, tax money that goes to Washington is not money that they would be using for that police. That's not part of the tax that we pay to Washington.
He was
The
talking,
money
she's
that
talking
they're-
about the current officer that's
Right.
at the high
The
school.
sheriff that's at the high school, paid by Washington, is not paid out of tax dollars from village residents, is what I'm saying.
Okay, how do you, can you
So
explain that
there's
to
no
me?
double tax.
Can you explain that to me, though? How do you know that? Where would I find that information at?
As far as with the county, there's money that goes to the county, so there is some money that goes to the sheriff, and I don't know what that amount is, but we don't pay all of Washington, just like Washington does not have responsibilities. What would be another one, Catherine, as far as the money that we pay, we do not pay for the police. I know that from back when Washington was going to hire sheriffs and have them, they have two that they pay for. All I know is the village money is not going for that. Just like, some of the, we aren't paying all of the Washington Township tax. We're not double
Well,
taxed.
maybe I'll reach out to the Washington Township clerk and they can
Okay,
tell me.
all
And,
right, that's fine, but I would tell you that's the fact.
It's not
We
unusual.
are double taxed.
Thank you.
You're not.
It's not unusual for municipalities to do this. Troy does it, Rochester does it, Royal Oak does it. So it's not uncommon. It's just a way for our community to say, we'll be willing to contribute to keep our kids safe at whatever it costs, so.
And it was the on-site police officer at Oxford that stopped this.
Correct. And stopped a lot more.
There was a deputy that was assigned to the high school.
He was the one that put a stop to this.
Right. I'm a big proponent of collaboration, and any time that we can collaborate with another entity to bring a benefit to our area, I certainly think that it's at least worth investigating. I realize that it has to make sense financially, and certainly, Megan, we should, look at your concerns, but as Bob indicated, there are exclusions. The Village of Romeo is excluded from the Bruce Township EML, the special assessment that pays for those services out there, so we do not currently pay that.
Okay.
We also don't pay the Washington Township one, which is what he meant. We tried to look at the same thing when Washington Township proposed the total sports soccer, and I went to Mr. O'Leary and I asked him to exclude the Village of Romeo from their special assessment, and they obviously chose not to do that, but that's the same scenario of why Romeo doesn't pay, because we pay separately under our contract services to Bruce for those services.
Okay. No, I appreciate that information, and I will contact the Washington clerk and.
One other thing, I watched the Bruce Township meeting, and they're holding off because I guess it went from $10 million to $50 million from the federal government to provide services for schools. So they kind of were thinking, from what I saw, they were hoping that some of that money would answer that question as far as it might be there for that.
Right, there may be some funding dollars that are coming forward, and again, as Dr. Robinson and I discussed this afternoon, we could make sure that there was language in a contract, in a partnership that said, if there's X amount of dollars that are received, they are, shared in this proportion, right? Either it reduces Romeo's liability and more is, but all these details have to be worked out, and that's all I'm asking for right now is support to work out those details and then bring it back to make sure that it makes sense for our budget.
And then
So-
would we go along with back when we were talking about our goals and objectives, school years and the full year? Are we still thinking we would do that where the off time, the summer, whatever, then the village would use the officer? That's still the
Yeah,
same?
this would not be a part-time position, right? But there is, the need would be probably 70% of the year, 60, I think, to 70% of a year is school days, which are primarily 8-hour days. But after that, on holidays, certainly that officer would be available for whatever duties he was assigned to perform. Yeah, cut down on overtime, holidays, right, cover vacations, those sorts of things.
Okay.
And I did offer that to Bruce Township as a great way for them to utilize a code enforcement officer. They don't normally regularly have one on their staff, and, you know, it's a tremendous asset for me to be able to send an officer out when I have an issue, or at least go with me when I have an issue. So there would be a benefit to Bruce Township, should they decide that they want to participate in this, to also take advantage of that officer through a 425, you know, at their disposal
And
within the hours.
I can appreciate, Bruce, their decision. I mean, we need to, at the table, we need to especially make decisions not based on emotion. So we do need to look into this, you know, look into all of the questions, and then make a decision, you know, based on the facts and what we can do, not just solely based on emotion. If there was emotion, I would 100%, I'd pay for it out of my own pocket, because any child lost isn't worth it. No money in the world could make up for that.
I agree, and if it's $15,000 out of our budget, worth every penny, $15,000, right? If we're paying a double tax, it's $15,000, in my opinion, totally worth it.
You'd have another officer at your disposal when they're not in school. During the school year, yes, he'd be there, but already he doesn't get the summer off.
Which, yes, it is completely worth it, but we also, just like I said, taking out the emotion, we have residents who are having a hard time just paying minimum as it is, and to increase anything or anything we could subsidize with the money that we have, I would just like to be very cautious and ask all the questions necessary before we go ahead.
I appreciate that.
Would this officer be able to make runs into Bruce Township?
Again, it depends on where that
Say what,
jurisdiction
Chief?
lies.
Would he be able to what?
Make runs into, you know, complaints?
No, unless Bruce Township decided to contract with the Village of Romeo, the only authority that officer would have would be at that school.
Currently, we do kind of cross over the border and go into Bruce Township for
As a
certain things.
mutual aid type thing when it's necessary, but we don't, if it's minor infractions or something, we go as a backup. We don't spend a lot of time on that.
So as a backup, then he might be able to, he or she might be able to support whatever.
Yeah. We're primarily Village of Romeo. That's the people we're concerned with.
So in that 425 agreement, you might want to just slide that in there as far as stepping over that border, that boundary a little bit to do support.
That's a
First call, first run.
That's a two-sided.
Well,
Right.
I mean, if it's going to be
We can
full-time.
certainly include that in our discussions,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It could
We
be
can
full-time
certainly
and
include that in
During the school year,
discussions.
you're
If
off,
it-
I made the motion, right?
you're around.
I thought that's what, I thought that's what you just kind of referenced by
That's what I
saying
was-
Bruce would have them at their disposal. I thought that's what you just, that's what I thought he was responding.
Right, well, not at their, right, to make a traffic stop, right? But if they needed them for a mutual aid or for, right, attending a meeting, code enforcement, right? As they contract with the Michigan State Police, so the Michigan State Police will also be involved in this process in assigning whatever jurisdictional duties they, you know, they deem necessary.
But I think if we move forward with this and have you do that, you're going to be able to figure out or find out a lot of the questions, you know,
That's
the
how
answers.
we're making the motion.
Yeah,
Right.
a bunch of questions.
Is to get the
So I made the
answers.
motion.
So we have a motion on the table. We have support by, motion by Bartholomew, support by Edwards to authorize President Malzahn to begin negotiations between Romeo, the POAM, the Romeo School District, and Bruce Township to establish a job description, union position, and cost share options for the purposes of hiring a Romeo officer with jurisdiction authority dedicated to the Romeo Middle School facility.
Yeah, that's my motion.
Facility and grounds.
That's what Nate said.
Yes. Okay.
Chief, the plan would be a Monday through Friday.
Whatever day that school's in session, the officer would be working there
From start of day to end of day.
to the end of the day. Because right now, there is nobody specifically assigned to that school. That officer would be at that school the whole time, unless, of course, he's sick or on vacation.
And then that obviously would be able to respond to the schools and the village if needed.
Oh, yes, he did it. We can do whatever we want at the Manamore right now.
Yeah.
But we have no authority at the middle
Okay.
school right now. And they're talking minimal cost. $15,000, that's a drop in the bucket in my budget.
Right, so the first responders are the state police, which takes 15 minutes.
And, well, some of them might be right out front, you never know.
Yeah.
But more than likely, if something happens at that school, first responding officers.
That's how it's been at the high school. I mean, maybe it's not a shooting, but it takes about 15 minutes for the state to get there typically.
All right, well, we have a motion on the table by Bartholomew. We have support by Edwards. Any more discussion? Otherwise, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so I will begin work on that. Moving on, new business. Whoops, I got out of order here. The bathroom, the Village Hall bathroom,
I'll make that motion. You guys get another bathroom.
right?
This is a great format, by the way. This really
I
is
like
put
it.
together.
As soon as I looked at it, Christine, it's great. All this, with these letterheads.
I don't
I
know
like
where
that we
mine
don't
is,
have
so
to
can
try
I
and
steal
figure
yours
out
for
what
a minute, Bob,
information's
please?
supposed to
It's
mean.
all
Okay.
right there.
It's nice.
Yes, good. So background. Currently, the Village Hall has no bathroom facilities for its employees or visitors.
Oh, it's got it.
All office employees, police officers, dispatchers, individuals in lockup, and Village Hall visitors share one unisex toilet, which is located within our police department. On average, there are 12 employees in the office during the hours of 8:30 and 4:30. So it is a problem. It's a problem for Homeland Security because we have to walk past an officer's room who could be reviewing sensitive information to access the facility. And so we've been working on this for a while. Under the Village Hall renovations, we needed to prioritize them. As you well know, we identified which we hoped would be the officer's room, moving over into another area, and that didn't work out. We needed to move the locker room from the asbestos-filled basement up to the old furnace room. We moved the furnace upstairs to the second floor to make the space. So ultimately, the area that will be designated for this project is the kitchen and the area where the safe was. So the safe has been removed. Thank you, Tim. The thing is massive, right? It's now housed at our DPW, and we have a new safe, much smaller, size of a filing cabinet, that holds the documents that needed to be locked up on a daily basis. We obviously needed to get the carpet installed. That has been done. So now we're on this point of bathroom. The problem that I'm having is finding a contractor, right? Finding a contractor. We had New Way Kitchen and Bath come in, local Romeo resident. I didn't realize that she lived over on Bailey Street.
You want me to write you up another spec?
Yes, no, well, we have a spec sheet included. We did that just for you, which you see the spec sheet there. And so you see New Way Supplies project cost $15,198.28. There's still some labor that would need to be added onto that. And then I also reached out to Bulldog Mechanical, who offered to do the plumbing at a discount of $4,650. We calculated other cabinetry based on the specs sheet, purchasing it from Home Depot, the doors, the drywall, kitchen sink, countertops. So that total calculated cost using Bulldog Mechanical, about $14,675. Again, still would require labor. I've been unsuccessful getting a third bid. I don't know who to call. Anybody has any help, some ideas, some suggestions? I'm all for it, but we need to get this accomplished, and I at least have these two. So I'm looking for some direction.
I would agree. Sounds like you probably need a general contractor to oversee, because you got multiple trades coming in. So that's probably what I would look at, instead of just like a mechanical company giving a bid, maybe look at getting a general contractor.
New Way Supply would do that. They would be both.
Really good company.
Yep.
So, New Way, that's a complete project.
Yes, there's still some labor that would be added because we weren't at the time that we discussed the project, she was thinking of installing the kitchen in the room, a room within that room, so a small bathroom and kitchen. The staff feels more comfortable keeping the kitchen away from the bathroom.
That's what I was thinking.
Just on the other side of the wall. And so there was some,
Good idea.
right, contemplating that we still have to do some planning.
What about
So,
Prospect Builders?
Andy?
building houses,
I think they're
not
too busy.
bathrooms.
They are
But
busy.
he might do it.
But he's a
'cause
general.
Basically,
Yeah.
He'll do it.
I doubt
put
it.
his business
At least
here in
puts his
Romeo.
spec in.
They're so
Or bid.
busy. I know those guys.
Andy's in and out of there all the time, and every contractor that comes in and out to pull a permit to do that work, I say, hey, can you build me a bathroom? Pat, can you build me a bathroom?
Why don't you have your building official handle it like they did the fire hall from Bruce?
It's a good idea.
Yes, we talked to Mr. Bomarito, and
I was
he's.
not that excited about it.
No, we really have exhausted, anybody that we can think of to take care of this for us, except for New Way, and except for Bulldog Mechanical. Jack was able to come out and at least take care of the plumbing. So short from having Dan build some walls, and he's shaking his head, because I know he built the walls in the officer's room, but I wouldn't put that on him, right? Yeah.
Well, it's long overdue.
So
And,
could, sorry, go ahead, Nick.
I know Laura personally, and she's won awards. She's very good at what she does. In fact, she was just flown out to New York recently because of something she did, and was asked to judge a national project. So, yeah, it just needs to be done. So whatever we got to do.
Yeah, I'm not gonna deny it needs to be done. I just like to see a complete project bid, and we can probably.
Well, I mean, you do have a complete project bid from New Way, again, with the exception of the caveat for the additional labor that may be necessary.
Which I don't think this is
But-
like that crazy outrageous. I think it's with what has to be done.
When I look at what it would cost to go to Home Depot and buy the same cabinets and a door and sink and countertops, the pricing is relatively the same, within a few $100s of what New Way would do to just
Everything.
take care of it and hopefully complete it before next year. Well, before '23, I should say.
Do we install the walls and things like that?
Yes.
They're putting up walls too,
We're
right?
talking
Is
a
that what
bathroom, but then with the bathroom is also the kitchen. Can this be done separately? We do one year, we do one another the year? Is there a reason we're lumping it all together?
Well, we need to remove the existing hot water heater and the sink. That's what we have in the kitchen area right now. We have a bar sink and the hot water heater to accommodate the toilet and the bathroom sink in the area of which it would need to go to make sure that it's ADA compliant. So the cabinetry is quite old. It's the old, MDF, is that what it's called? Where it's sort of glued together. So yes, we would need.
Talking about like moving the hot water heater.
I'd like to see all that written down.
Electric.
Exactly. Framing walls.
List out a few things with cabinets, faucets,
Putting up walls.
Toto commercial toilet, Panasonic whisper quiet fan.
Well,
All sounds great, just.
at the bottom it says-
List a complete bid, right,
Right.
with
Yeah.
everything. If they're gonna GC the whole project, we'd wanna see that listed out. I mean, it was
Well, it says,
$42,000 to get it engineered for the generator. We should probably make sure everything's.
but it does say at the bottom, to be determined after approval of layout, so there would probably be more information forthcoming. This is just a general, I think, price, and then
Yeah, I mean,
But
There's
this
more
is what
layout.
we're looking at to say yes to a price.
yeah, I mean, so this, I mean, you could be looking at another
Yeah.
5, 6, 10 grand pretty quick.
Well, then you could give me a not to exceed amount, knowing that this is $15,198. If you gave me a not to exceed amount, we could certainly see if we could accommodate that.
Or they can come back and say, it's
Yeah.
gonna be X dollars more, and this is what we're gonna do.
We want to see
Yeah,
exactly what our money's paying for.
But at least we'd be keeping the ball moving,
Yes.
giving them
Okay.
a reason to keep
20?
sharpen their pencil. and
Yeah, you're right, Bob.
do more.
Yeah, I'd like to see what they're going to do.
Yeah.
To
Exactly.
exceed
I
20,000?
mean, because I'll charge you an extra 10 grand for putting up a wall. It's not down here.
Move electric for hot water heater.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there's a lot of stuff.
Run that conduit along the floor, right?
Not to exceed 20,000?
I don't know, I would just like to see a complete project list.
I would even, I don't know if it even has to go to 20, you can put it for what the bid is, and you knowing that there's extras, and they're gonna come back, and you can just say, the board has approved this, they didn't know what else was included in there.
Yeah.
Okay,
And-
yes.
But it just, you know,
Yeah.
and if it's outrageous, then, you know, we can do that, but I wouldn't throw 20 out there, because it'd be
Correct.
$19.99.
Yeah,
I was just
15
throwing it out there to see what you thought.
Exists, what
Right.
does it do?
And they're gonna
Yeah.
come back wanting more.
Yeah.
So we're gonna see it again.
You're absolutely right. We need to know what they're gonna do
Right.
for the amount.
But if we approve it to this amount,
Then
we
this is
know,
all they're gonna do.
Then they're gonna, no, but they'll come back with what it's gonna cost.
So then we're
See.
gonna have to look at it again and vote on it again, so we might as well just get a complete project
Yes.
list before we approve anything.
Did I
Yeah,
miss
we know
it?
it's
Is there
not gonna
like
be
a-
The only thought is with the contractors and things, and they're very busy in that, it shows that we're serious to work with them. And, because I know back in things, people can sit there and, oh, give me a quote on this, give me a quote on this. If it's been approved to work with that vendor, but they know that there's gonna be something, but we need to have all those details, and the board's gonna come back. I don't know how much higher they're gonna go, but the board is serious to move ahead and do this. I
think we were all in agreement,
Yeah,
so we're serious
yeah, we
about
are.
getting this done.
Yeah.
I
Well,
So I'm
I'd
not
like
sure-
to see a complete project.
I'm not sure what specific information you need, because on this summary, it says Pioneer, steak, coral, shaker, white kitchen cabinets and bathroom. Again, all the diagrams show you the dimensions
I mean,
of the
no,
cabinets,
on
upper,
the-
lowers.
This is the spec sheet. I mean, you're talking lighting,
That's
GFI
just-
outlets, electrical.
Right.
You're
plumbing,
talking product,
flooring.
we're not
I don't
talking
see
an
any of
hourly
that.
How about the
rate.
wall drywalls?
The flooring will be the flooring that we already have. We have
But
both.
what I'm saying is, it's not listed.
Exactly,
There's not a line
yes.
item for that. It says, this is gonna cost this much.
But they're not doing flooring, so I'm not going to include flooring.
I thought you just said they were GCing the project.
There's no flooring being contracted.
Right. We already have flooring left over from the carpet project and the other laminate flooring that's from the front. So those materials will be used in the bathroom. I suppose there could be labor
There's gonna be.
for them to be installed.
Installed, yes.
I assumed that Romeo floor covering was coming back to finish the install on the materials that we already purchased for that area that wasn't ready when they installed that work.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be through New Way that would take care of the flooring,
Okay, so I mean, that's
So-
one item.
Okay.
There's no electrical listed out.
Drywall,
right? Electrical's coming
Tape,
from
mud,
Matt
sand.
Joseph, who,
Jarosh.
Matt Jarosh, yes.
aluminum studs or
Um,
wood studs?
So it's, again, it's just.
Does it matter
we'd like
what
to
kind of studs they use?
It's in a
I mean, I
commercial
don't know.
building? I
I'm
mean,
just
I guess
asking the
that's what
question.
we're-
Tell me
that's
what you
we're-
want me to, tell me what you want me to provide you.
Okay.
And I will ask them that.
Yeah, I'll do it again. Okay, Vic?
Yeah, it should all be spelled out. We should just have a final number. Let's put it together.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't think we need to approve a number that we know is not the right number.
Can you make contact
Except
with
the
these guys?
only thought I have with that is contractors are busy, and you're gonna.
I know.
They'll,
It's-
yeah, right. I mean, how many times do you, you know,
But we can spell it
Yeah,
out.
if a customer came to me and
Spell
said,
it out
hey,
exactly what you're gonna
you
get.
didn't include A, B, and C, I need a price on it, I'm gonna put together the price. If I want the work,
It's like a used car dealer, gonna sell you a car and the car don't run.
yeah, no.
Sell you the engine tomorrow.
right.
I mean, I like the layout.
Put it in there.
The blueprint diagram you have here
Yes.
looks great. Just get a
Just-
complete project and
Put
move forward. Let's
walls,
vote on it next
no
month.
drywall, no
Done.
tape, mud, sand. Look at that. GFI?
Yeah, 'cause we're gonna have to come back and look at it again anyways.
So I'm sorry, I'm just still not understanding what it is that you want me to bring back to you. I have a list of the spec sheet. We have a list of materials that they're using. We have the layout and the cabinet sizes, so
A complete project cost.
So studs and drywall sheets and GFI.
Electrical. We've gotta
will,
move
electrical
the-
is separate, not included in this.
So we should have that price. If we're gonna approve a project, we should know what the electrical's gonna cost. I'm assuming the hot water tank is electric. You know, so you got plumbing and the electric that needs to be done there.
Well, I think what they're saying with this particular estimate is that this is all the stuff we're gonna do for this price, minus labor. So, but you're saying you want, like, every little detail But I think what they've done it properly. They're saying, we're gonna do all this
I'm not
work.
gonna deny that aspect, that portion of this job, yes. If you were handed this for your house and said, here, but you're gonna have to look at 5 other things also, like, you just pay me right now.
Okay.
Right?
The quote that you have here
Makes no
included
sense.
the way the bathroom was set up, and then they're gonna be moving it now instead of having it in there, so that's why there's additional cost. That was a complete cost if they were gonna have the cabinetry in that proximity of the sliding door.
Minus electrical,
Right, okay.
correct. Yep.
Could we also just, a rough estimate of, I mean, is the labor, is it hourly? How is, just says plus labor? Some number there.
Well, it says to be
Part of the
determined
problem
after.
here is, like Christine, if I were to handle this, I wouldn't know what questions to ask. Would it be possible for you to work with Christine and create this list of questions that you need? Because I don't know if I go away after this meeting, you know, in a couple hours or the next day or 2 days, that I remember everything you've mentioned.
Good point.
And we just don't have the experience to know what kind of,
I can respect, that's kind of why you want to have a
Questions
general
to ask.
contractor oversee a project.
You include
You know,
everything.
so, yes, I enjoy what I do here, but if you're asking me to come as a professional
no,
to
I'm just.
general contract a job, that's completely different from
Just
what
the
I'm
No,
doing.
no, no,
Kind
I'm
of
just
like-
asking you to work with Christine to create this list of questions.
To write this
So
one.
that you, Christine could get them answered for you.
What's missing?
Because
Let her know
I
what's
don't know that
missing.
I would know
So she doesn't miss anything, and next month we can,
tomorrow what
we can
questions
do
you
it.
had.
All right, I'll help you.
Sounds good.
Zach, you wanna help?
Yeah, I'll help you.
It's a good
Again,
suggestion, Matt.
I don't mind.
I don't know how to.
Because they're in the
Okay.
business.
Do you think you can get me that in the next
Exactly.
week or two? And then we can bring, just so that I can bring it back. I give them a couple of weeks to gather the information that you're requesting, so I can put it back on the January 18th meeting.
Do it.
I know it's the
Site visit,
holidays,
take a
so.
look.
Yeah, we'll go there and
Yeah.
do the measurements, everything, and see what's going to involve.
Yeah.
Well, the measurements are on their diagrams, because that's all spelled out,
Right, but
right here.
what we
You already
need is-
have the cabinet sizes, right?
Yeah, I just like to look at
Y- y-
the
Look at the
site,
job
where it's
site.
going, and
Okay,
we can figure
What
it out.
walls are going up,
Okay.
where they're going up,
Have much's portion
what you
of the
need.
meeting.
right,
Great, thank you.
okay.
Again,
Helpful.
Then we will table this, can I get a motion to table it until?
I'll make a motion, we'll
Next month.
table that until you
after
get the answers or the complete bid for
Perfect.
next January meeting.
Okay, we have a motion by Hart to table,
That Zach
Support.
and
support by
you want
Bartholomew.
to name that Zach and
We'll meet-
Justin are going
here's the
to
village hall.
help you put that together.
Thank you.
Call Bommarito.
All in
Week
favor?
from today, me and Zach can meet,
Yeah, we'll call
Yeah, village
Bommarito.
hall.
We'll get Bommarito there too.
if that works.
I'll have to see if there's anybody that's going to be available to meet with you on that date. I will still be out on Christmas holiday, so
Can we come to the police department?
Tuesday would probably be better.
We can come through
Yes.
his office, can't we?
Yeah, Tuesday morning.
We're there 24/7.
Okay. Yeah, well, you just need to look at it.
You,
Okay.
someone there would have a general idea of where this is all happening?
Well,
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right.
So we get it
Kicked
done.
it around.
We'll get it on
Okay,
Monday.
We'll call Mike too.
okay.
We'll be there. Okay.
All right, so then, all in favor of tabling it?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next up, new business, item 10E, Parliamentary Procedure Workshop. Bit of background. Recently, I attended the Michigan Association of Mayors Conference in Mount Pleasant. During that conference, Coco Seward, did I say her name right? Seward, an engaging parliamentarian, presented a session to attendees on parliamentary procedure. I found the session very informative and useful. Her shared experiences and the informational handouts will be beneficial to all attending this workshop and will help create continuity to all of our municipal meetings. What I anticipate is there'll be a joint workshop on January 26th in the village, in this meeting room, and we will invite all Romeo boards and commissioners to attend the event.
great.
So, her fee schedule, her resume is attached. Her fee schedule is $150 an hour, plus travel time. Well worth it. The information and the, the dialogue that it just generated in her posing the scenarios of, started out, I just want to order a pizza. So I'm going to make a motion to order a pizza, and then what ensues from ordering a pizza? Well, do you want pepperoni or do you want onions, right? And how do we negotiate what kind of pizza we're going to get? Is it a small or is it a large? So it was very useful. So no board action is necessary. I just wanted to mention January 26th. Please mark your calendars and join us at 6:30 in this room.
Will it be recorded for those of us that might not be able to attend, so that we can watch it back?
I'm sure that I can invite, the TV to record that. I
Yeah,
think
because
that
I'm sure
would-
especially even all the other, somebody's not going to be able to make it.
would be very useful.
Probably.
Indeed. Okay, moving on then. The big moment that everybody is waiting for. Al, you can't go home yet,
They're calling it.
right? You can't go home yet. Item 10F, marijuana license approvals. I realize that the cover sheet for this agenda item was not in your packet, and for that I apologize. You do have some materials that are in your packet. You have the license applications. You can see the signatures that they met with all of the criteria there. You see a special land use license. There is a map that's included in there of all of the application locations. And again, copies of the applications, marked copy that you have in your packet for each one of the vendors. So let me please read, I'm going to read the language that Mark helped me craft for the recommendation. As mandated in Village Ordinance Number 557, the review of the applications for the 5 submittals attached. That's not all of the submittals that we have. That's just for the 5 that we are attached and we're considering this evening. All 5 submittals attached for marijuana business licenses has been completed. The clerk has forwarded to me all required documentation and has reported that all 5 applications have satisfied the submittal requirements specified in Ordinance Number 557. After review of the separation measurements stated in the Village of Romeo zoning ordinance, Section 46-5, 2 applications meet the 750 feet property line to line, Four applications, I misspoke. 4 applications meet the 750-foot property line-to-line buffer zone required by the ordinance. Just a bit of background, if I may. The village clerk, Section 557-008 of our marijuana business license, application review stated in paragraph 6. The village clerk shall forward all required approvals, including date and time stamping notations, to the village president, who at the next Romeo Village Council meeting, unless postponed for good cause or otherwise provided herein, shall approve licenses in the order of date and time stamp receipt. So there will be no board action necessary this evening. Was there any comment before I award the licenses? Any discussion?
So
I know
just
Mr.
4,
There-
because one was not qualified? Was that,
Right.
out of the 5, 4 were within the 750?
Wait, there were 7 applications, excuse me. 5 locations, 7 applications. 4 licenses are being awarded in 2 locations.
Okay. So there isn't one that is not qualified?
There are several that are buffered out
Okay,
by the zoning.
all right.
There's one location that has 3 applications. That's where the confusion is coming in. So there will actually be 2 locations, but 4 licenses.
Just for clarification, I guess this goes back to a meeting that we had when we were discussing having like establishments within the village, and you had mentioned something about you didn't want it prevalent, you didn't want it seen, and that's why we decided to have it over in the industrial district so that it wasn't seen. And in the zoning ordinance, it says the location of allowable marijuana establishment is restricted to the area of the village zoned industrial, and then only in industrial areas located north of 32 Mile Road, and so on. So I thought the intent was made, and I was just shocked to see something with an address on 32, because I thought we were talking things north of 32, not including 32. So if you clarify that, because that was my understanding. When we didn't want to see it, you didn't want it prevalent, and we put north of 32, which I thought would exclude a 32 Mile Road
There would be
address.
properties north of 32.
Exactly, not addressed on 32, right?
Yeah, I would say the houses on 32 are on the north properties are the north side of 32, and the south side homes are the side. So the businesses on there are on 32 on the north side. There are no ones on the south side of 32. It's a field.
Well, I know that's not even our area, but
Right.
I guess just the wording, I guess clarification, to me, it should have maybe then said north of 32, including 32 Mile Road addresses, because I thought that was your guys' intent when you talked about not having an armed guard scene and this and that, why you wanted it in that industrial area, not right on
32 Mile Road
32.
is part of the industrial park.
I know, but the ordinance, the zoning ordinance says in the industrial and then, so it even clarifies it even further by breaking it down to a boundary north of 32.
Well, I certainly thank you for bringing those concerns to the meeting tonight. We're not here really to argue what the zoning ordinances say. We did that work when we adopted it, and we sent the wording to the Planning Commission, and they adopted it. So any clarification that needs to be done probably would need to be done at a much later date, because we're not here tonight to discuss that, although those are certainly valid concerns. So we might have to revisit that. But for the purposes of tonight's meeting, we're not going to look for clarification on the 32 Mile Road, north, south, whatever that confusion is. We're going to move forward.
I have a question, if I could ask Mr. Clark. Patrick, congratulations. I'm glad you have all four. But is there a relationship between, he actually has the 32 Mile Road and the 33 Mile Road? The only license that are being distributed to is Mr. Vickner's LLCs. Doesn't it kind of look a little, stinks a little bit?
Well,
mean,
Mr.
it
Fowler,
just-
we established the rules.
Yeah, I guess
We
that's what I meant.
established a procedure, right? We opened up the application period. We had everybody camped outside for positioning for a week because they understood the importance of the date and time stamp, right? In what order they came in, we didn't restrict the number of applications any one person can submit.
That's all state controlled.
Well, yeah,
Absolutely.
More power to you,
Absolutely.
Patrick. Good job. But
So-
out of all the applicants, the other ones were denied. Could have shook it up a little better than this. Jeez, it just.
That we're just following what
looks
the
wrong.
ordinance says, what the application and the ordinance says, in the order of date and time stamp of which they were received. All of them have met all of the criteria,
Well,
except
going
for the
by what you-
750-foot buffer zone.
Going by what you have here on the date and times, which is fine, and, like I said, more power to him. Does he need all four of them? I mean, couldn't you? Did it come out to?
That's
America, you can have as many as you can
Jeez.
get.
Is there any audience, James, I know you asked to speak. Did you have any?
Quick for clarification.
Could you come to the podium for me,
I could,
please?
yes.
Thank
I
you.
just didn't know if this was going to be the right time to squeeze in a comment or not, because it sounds like we heard something that wasn't fully announced, but are you guys going through the approvals right now? It sounds like basically we already know who's got it. I was kind of waiting to exert my comment after those results, but it doesn't seem we have that full clarification yet, so.
Okay.
Is there still time?
Yep.
Okay.
There is.
I'd like
There
to wait.
is.
I just wanted to ask that real quick.
Okay, absolutely. Is there any other discussion from the board?
A resident had asked me, they just wanted clarification that has any of the applicants, anyone involved with any of the businesses at any time, have they contributed at all to any of the elected officials' campaigns at any time, current campaigns, last, at all? Monetarily, any sort of social media support, or putting a sign out?
I cannot answer that at this time, right?
Part of the application form.
Wasn't, right.
I didn't say, I'm asking for a resident that would like to know if at any time have any of these applicants contributed to a campaign of an elected official up here sitting at the table. I'm
Is that
asking.
directed towards me?
No, I'm just asking.
Seems like it's directed towards me. The answer to that is no.
I'm not even looking at you, sir.
You don't have to.
Any other discussion?
It is not directed towards you, sir. I don't even know your name.
That's Patrick.
I think you do.
How you doing, Patrick?
Okay, Mr.
Just
Patrick.
like to spread the wealth a little bit.
Please don't take
that's all.
offense
It's
to a
just-
question that I am bringing up.
I
from a
would
resident.
ask too,
Don't like
is
monopoly.
any of that, if there is somebody that has done
It is
that, have
not
they
too
been
late.
supporting that person for 10 years before we even talked about marijuana? That would be a good question too. Because I know
I asked
exactly
the
what you're
question
alluding
just
to.
so the resident knows.
Ms.
I asked your question and this
Zinansky.
was the
Well, you know,
response.
Bob.
I apologize.
Okay, so at this time, I am going to award a license to parcel ID number 2700136226016, address at 14940 33 Mile Road. A license to 27013622617, address 15020 33 Mile Road. An additional license at the same location, and a parcel ID license awarded to 28040120015, address 15055 32 Mile Road.
And if you would like to see that, I do post a full copy of our packet that we received on my Facebook page, I'm with Meg. All of these documents are in there if you would like to see them. Look up Facebook page, I'm with Meg.
Mr. McKenna, did you have a comment?
Yes, please.
Please come to the podium.
My name is James McKenna. We are with FIG. We are one of the applicants in this cannabis process. I'm not sure if anyone can help clarify these questions, for which there was letters that were sent from the Planning Commission and then from you guys as well, because there was the board meetings. Then we had recent meetings for the special land use. So we had submitted our applications on September 22nd. Obviously, it was a very competitive process. We had people camping outside your guys' door for a little while. So we got a letter on October 19th, which I believe is stating all of the applicants that submitted in special land use. There was 5 addresses on there, 2 for 33 Mile, 3 for East Pine Drive. On the same date, we got another letter that there was the address 15355 32 Mile Road, and then a vacant lot at 32 Mile Road, which I believe was the annex properties on the other side of Powell, where they were trying to look at go from residential to industrial, which is how it's written in this letter as well. Both of these letters are from Planning Commission, so I understand if you guys can't answer any questions related to those. Then we got another letter on October 26th from Mrs. Catherine, stating that there's going to be the meeting on November 4th, which was your guys' November board meeting. And then on October 28th, it is reissuing another letter from the Planning Commission, which is talking about that vacant lot and that other address that was annexed, that was going from residential to industrial. It broke the page out, and then towards the bottom half, it said that the request for rezoning, which is essentially reiterating the letter that was sent to us on the 19th, listed the addresses, and we noticed that a 32 Mile address was slipped in there. So originally on the 19th, there was only 5 addresses, 233, 3 East Pond Drive. And then it somehow popped up in here on the October 28th letter from James Stegner, the chairman of the Planning Commission. And during that meeting, Mr. Clark was there as well. We got to the point to where the 15355 32 Mile Road and vacant lot was approved. Planning Commission passed through, no problem. Then the moment we got to the second half, everything got tabled. Supposedly there was not enough documentation supported to go on with that, so we all got delayed for the next month that it would be on that meeting. And then on November 22nd, we get a letter that is the exact duplicate of a letter we received on October 19th. And this is stating that these 3 addresses are submitting an application for special land use. These 3 addresses happen to be the one on 32 Mile that I'm kind of raising in question how it slipped in here. There's another one on 32, so the 2 are 15055 32 Mile Road, parcel 270136225018. Second address is 14833 32 Mile Road, parcel number 0401 200 024, and the third address, 110 McLean Drive, 2701 36 226 010. So we're kind of questioning here, and I don't know if maybe you guys can help clear this up. Like I said, some of these letters are from Planning Commission, some are coming from your guys' board. To our knowledge, now knowing that it sounds like the 33-mile address and the 32-mile address are the only two locations that got it, obviously that puts a buffer because there happens to be 3-4 other applicants that now fit within those realms that 32-mile address knocks us out. So I'm not sure if this was a typo on the first letter from the Planning Commission. One concern and question that we raise is part of the application requirement is that we have to have a special land use application or you guys would not have accepted our application. So with that being noted, in understanding the first letter, if that 32-mile address did not have a special land use application submitted, which we felt should have been on this letter with the other 5 addresses, technically that application should have marked incomplete and would have fallen in line behind these addresses that I'd imagine were based on a first come, first serve, based on the line that we had established outside of your guys' village hall.
So let me do my best to answer all those questions, because there was a lot.
So, yeah, sorry
Right,
to
so-
unpack a lot.
Right.
I know we're all trying to get out of here, so I was trying to wrap
Right,
it up
I don't
quick.
have any of those letters in front of me, so just be patient with me, and certainly if we need to look for clarification. I can certainly speak to the initial letter for the Planning Commission that went out. And we can provide you copies of the affidavit of publication. The public hearing notice was published with all of the parcel IDs, but the letter that was sent out, unfortunately, due to a clerical error, did not include the 32-mile road. When we noticed the error, we notified the Planning Commission that they would not be able to address that address at the time because the letter that was sent out, not the publication for public hearing, inadvertently left out that criteria. So that's why the second letter went out. The date and timestamp wasn't affected of when the application was submitted because all of these were still considered within the 60 days that the ordinance 557 calls out for. That's why we allowed it ourselves a 60-day time for review and then to report back its findings. The other letter with the other addresses that you mentioned aren't included in tonight's consideration because those applications have not been completed yet. They were submitted at a later date, aside from the group that camped out on the side of the village hall, and they haven't been completed yet. So that's why it's not in the packet.
Now, can it be confirmed? I understand there's clerical error, a lot of things go around with paper. So I understand the 32-mile address supposedly did have their application submitted. Can it be confirmed that a special land use application was submitted in with that application? And is that document timestamped as well with our applications?
I don't have that in front of me to confirm the date and timestamp, but yes, there was a special land use application made at the time, which is why it was published in the public hearing notice in, I believe, the Macomb Daily. Again, I don't have that in front of me to know what that publication date was, but yes.
So that publication publicly posted all the special land use applications?
Yes.
Showing the addresses, names, everything, the timestamps? Okay.
We do not publish timestamps in the Macomb Daily.
Got it.
For applications, is that is a separate person.
Would that timestamp information be public to either citizens of Romeo or
For
the
the
village?
completed applications, yes.
Okay. So is that information I could follow up with an email to get some extra requests on?
Yes, you can fill out a FOIA request, that would be appreciated.
Okay, yeah, for sure. And then I'm not sure where this leads next. Obviously, I know this is kind of opening up to where 2 addresses are getting approved. So I'd like to end this on the ending comment, just recommending, picking up on a comment that Mr. Bob Hart had made back when you guys were going through the ordinance about the 750 foot. It was getting tossed around multiple times. You know, you guys had mentioned if we need to revisit it, we'll revisit it when that time comes. I politely ask on myself on behalf of the other applicants that you guys think about revisiting the boundary limit, whether it's a tweaking from a 750 to 500 or examining the current applicants that have submitted in their applications to allow for a possible relook at the other applicants for an opportunity to come into your guys' village.
I certainly appreciate the request. I understand the need. You know, hindsight is always 20/20, unfortunate. And as Mr. Fowler wanted to address it at last month's meeting, but our legal counsel felt that it was not appropriate since we had active and open applications that hadn't been completed, that we even have that conversation. So once all of the applications that we have that have been received and date timestamped in our office are completed, then perhaps we can look at a process of which we could readdress that buffer zone. Yes.
Understood. Thank you guys for your time.
You're welcome.
You guys enjoy the evening.
Okay, so, oh. Yes.
May I speak?
Yes, please go to the podium. Please give us your name and address.
Sure. Good afternoon. Good evening. Robert S. Huth Jr. with the law firm Kirk and Huth, 19500 Hall Road, Clinton Township, Michigan. Generally, I'm a municipal lawyer, and generally I'm sitting on your side of the table, so I know the struggles that you go through to work on these marijuana applications for the different permits. Harrison Township, for example, is one of the leaders in that and helped them with that. One of the questions I have for you, and I wasn't at the Planning Commission meetings if you vetted it there, but it sounds to me that there's a single applicant that is going to be fortunate enough to initially have been awarded permits tonight. But at some point, it may be that that applicant decides not to make investment in 4 properties in which he's competing with himself to have 4 establishments that you all know how much expense it is to get up and running. You've seen the applications. So my question is does there come to be a point when the applicant does not go through with opening up his spot that the council says, well, wait a minute, we're going to get back into the application process here and look at the date stamped one that got knocked out and give it consideration?
I believe to answer your question, and I don't have the ordinance in front of me, but the ordinance includes a provision that they have 1 year to get a building permit, because we didn't want them to languish out there like is happening in other municipalities.
Right.
So we have established a time frame for which that to take precedent, to take place.
Okay. Thank you, Madam President, for the clarification.
You're welcome. Was there anybody else? Okay, let's move on to new business item 10G, RFP for our water and sewer rate study project. So a bit of background. At the October 18th, 2021 regular meeting, the board approved an RFP drafted by James Vitrano with changes requesting proposals from qualified firms with expertise in water and wastewater utility financial services to develop a comprehensive water and wastewater cost of service, rate design, and fee structure study. The purpose of this study is to update the village's water and wastewater capital and financial needs and to use current best practices for cost of service, rate design, fee assessment, fee assessment use, make recommendations on changes to the village's rate and fee structure. The consultant shall develop a comprehensive plan that will support recommendations to Village Council regarding the village's rate and fee ordinances. Also included in the RFP is a request for study of costs associated in converting the current municipal water service to Great Lakes Water and an analysis for costs of future Bruce Township sewer capacity use. So tonight, I'm making a recommendation to approve the bid submitted by Municipal Analytics for the purposes of conducting a 2022 water and sewer rate study as outlined in the board-approved request for proposal posted on the mitten on 11/30/2021 in the amount not to exceed $18,500. Attached, you see the 2 submissions that we did receive, Baker Tilly and Municipal Analytics. Also, you have attached the proposed spreadsheet that Catherine drafted, just giving you a breakdown of those 2 submissions so that you didn't have to read the entire packet. But hopefully you did. So.
Might mention that the other bid was at $29,500.
Yes, you are correct. Baker Tilly, and located in East Lansing.
Yes. So I would make a motion to approve with Municipal Analytics proposal to do the cost study.
In the amount not to exceed $18,500. Yep. Okay, so we have a motion by Hart. Do we have support? By Bartholomew. Any other discussion?
Yeah, so the hourly fee rate on there, that would be for any additional meetings or time needed?
It's not going to exceed $18,500, but depending on how long it actually takes him to do the study and the information time that that he's gathering in those documents is based on $140 an hour. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Hart?
Yes.
Bartholomew?
Yes.
Fowler?
No.
President
Yes.
Krasinski?
Yes?
Edwards?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-1.
6-1. Thank you. All right. At this time, I'm going to make a motion to enter into, close this session, this portion of the regular meeting. It is 9 o'clock, right? It is 9 o'clock straight up. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
That's a record.
And so it is 9:37. I'm going to make a motion to re-enter into regular session.
Support?
Is that all in favor, or is that a roll call?
That's all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So we're back. Yes.
Support?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't hear.
All in
Oh.
favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Meeting adjourned at 9:37.